I'm so excited today to tell you about the progress that we have made on a major initiative that you've heard us talk about over the last year or so, something called our in-system storage project. And this is a project whereby it's part of our puzzle of reducing, hopefully with a goal of eventually eliminating totally, combined sewer overflows, CSOs, from some of the older areas in Macomb County that currently have combined systems. So, you know, they have their sanitary sewer and their storm sewer are combined. And so after a heavy rain event, our inadequate, underground, antiquated infrastructure absolutely can't handle all of the precipitation in that. And unfortunately, for decades, we've then been treating, which we're permitted to do, but then we discharge treated CSOs out into Lake St. Clair. And even though we're permitted by the state of Michigan to do that, we do not want to do it. So Macomb County has the political will, and we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're doing these projects, a number of them, all, as I say, with our goal toward reducing and eliminating combined sewer overflows. That's the entire purpose of this particular project. The in-system storage, and we're standing on Beaconsfield between 9 Mile and 8 Mile in the city of Eastpointe. And this particular project is going to help us reduce our CSOs. There's about a 11.5-foot diameter pipe that runs from Eastpointe. That's 94 in the background, I-94, just to give you some idea. And it runs from Eastpointe, it runs all the way down into St. Clair Shores, into our Chapaton pump station at 9 Mile and Jefferson. So what we've decided to do is we've done some value engineering so that we've taken a look at the existing infrastructure that we have and how can we utilize what all of us have invested in many years ago and utilize it, optimize it to the fullest. And so what we've decided to do is we had to build the shaft. Last time we had a tape on this, a video, you saw this was all totally open here. Now you see just this sticking up here. This is our shaft. And when it's all done, when the road's all concreted here and repaved and reopened, this will just be a big plate on the road. You'll drive right over it. You won't even know what's underneath there. But you will if you watch this video. You're going to be an educated person on what we're doing for water quality. That's really our goal, right? How can we improve the water quality in our magnificent Lake St. Clair and Great Lakes? And that's what we're doing here. So our pipe, 11.5-foot diameter, is about 35 foot under the ground here. And we are installing a rubberized, that's what I'm waving around here, a section of a rubberized weir or bladder that we're going to be able to inflate to hold back the flow after a heavy rain event, and then we can slowly deflate the bladder, the weir, after the rain event has passed, and then all of this flow would then go down to the city of Detroit, Great Lakes Water Authority, for proper treatment rather than discharging out into the lake. So it's not really complicated, but I really want you to understand how this is all going. So Steve Rizicki, who's my project manager here and one of my engineers, construction engineers, has been sort of managing this project, and he's the expert. And you're going to tell me, if you will, Steve, what exactly, I mean, this thing, I know they can't really see this, so you can see how thick it is, but it's so heavy. When you gave this to me today, I said, I can't believe this thing can actually inflate, but apparently it will, right?
It does. So we've got some videos. We're kind of nearing the tail end of the project here where we're getting into commissioning of the bladder. We've got some pictures that we'll show and some videos of the install within the shaft here. The bladder itself, like Candice said, is very heavy. It's about just under 5,000 pounds and about 30 feet long, 35 feet long. And when we inflate it, you'll see in the videos of it actually stretching and sealing the pipe off to store the flow. So holding this piece, it's incredible that it stretches, but it does, and it will hold back water during a rain event. Right now we're about 3.5 million gallons of additional storage as part of this. And we're working towards next week starting commissioning within our control room and with our automated controls, which we will show you in a second.
Now, this thing is so heavy. How long does it actually take for the bladder to completely inflate and then deflate again, I guess?
So for inflation, we inflated it last week off of an air compressor as a test. It took about 35 minutes to fully inflate and seal the pipe. With the blowers in our control room that we'll show you, right now we're looking at about 25 minutes to fully inflate once we decide to engage it during a rain event. And then for deflation, the pressure of the water on the inflatable itself, as well as larger bypass valves for deflation, deflating this would take a matter of minutes if we get to that point and
Wow.
need to rapidly deflate the inflatable.
That's great. So now we are going to walk over to our little building over here, which is our maintenance building and is our building that is storing all of our equipment for inflating the bladder and taking care of everything that we need, our electrical, etc. So I want to have you take a look at how that's coming inside the building as well. Now, when you drive down Beaconsfield, once we reopen this road, which should be in the near future here, once we get it paved, when you drive down Beaconsfield between 9 Mile and 8 Mile, that building over there, that brick building, is the only thing you're really going to see outside of driving over the top of this shaft, which again will be a middle section that you just drive over. So that's all you're going to see. And it'll be back behind the curb, and on the other side of it is I-94. So there's no impact, really. I mean, it's almost no impact at all into the neighborhood, certainly. So people won't even really know what's back in there. So I'm going to take you now over to that building. So I talked to you a little bit about how the bladder, again, this is a section of the rubber bladder, the weir that we are installing right now, this very heavy, heavy rubber. We talked about how it's going to inflate in about 25 minutes and then deflate again. And now we're inside our control building, which you can see all of this apparatus here. And I'm going to ask Steve Rizicki again, our project manager here, to tell us exactly, Steve, what are we actually looking at here in this building? What's the purpose of all of this equipment that we have installed here?
Yep, so like Candice said, this is the control building. This is where all of the operations of the inflatable, the gates, and everything come to. What you see on the wall on this side, all the piping, valving, and blowers, this is to inflate and deflate the bag. Blowers down here will obviously force air into it to inflate, and then we have vacuum to deflate the bag when we need to deflate it. Other things that we'll see in the room here, we can go behind us. So
Yeah.
these are our integration panels. So this is everything, the brains. Control panels, signals for remote sensing, remote operation, send everything back to our SCADA system so our operators can effectively operate from the control room or the main control center at our pump station, as well as keep an eye on things during an event.
Our SCADA system, just to tell you a little bit more about what that actually is, we refer to it as SCADA. We have sort of our war room, I guess you could call it, our control room, at our pump station at 9 Mile and Jefferson. It's our SCADA system. It's all on a panel along the back of one wall. And essentially what it allows all of our operators to do is to see our entire system. Not just that we're talking about here today, or not even that pump station or whatever, but all of our interceptors. You know, we have huge interceptors that run all over the county, and other pump stations and other facilities. They're all over Macomb County that are under the operation of the Public Works Department. And by looking at the SCADA, it's very high tech. We've invested a lot of capital in it so that our operators are eyes on 24/7 on everything that is happening in our system. And not only that, they can take, you know, everybody is not there 24/7, so they also have the availability of just having it on their laptop. So if they're, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning and they start getting an alert that one of the pumps is shutting down, or there's some sort of maintenance problem, or, you know, storms come, all kinds of things are happening, they're able to react and to do a lot with our system just by using technology. So that's why all of this is so important, that everything is tied into our SCADA.
Yep. Yep.
Now, what is this panel?
And so the last piece of equipment we have in here is a hydraulic control panel. There's 2 small gates that are also installed within the structure, and they're going to be used for dewatering. Basically a controlled release of stored flow to allow it to pace with what our pumping capabilities are downstream on the tail end of the event, where we can send everything to Detroit for proper treatment. So this allows us hydraulically to control those gates.
We also wanted to show you some other apparatus that is going to be obviously up above the ground here, up above the road level. And these are some very important components of our entire project here, because they are allowing ventilation, and they are also making sure that we don't have any odor issues here. I mean, we are talking about sewage, let's be honest, right? So we need to make sure that we don't have any kind of odor that's permeating out of our system into the neighborhoods here. We are very, very cognizant of that at all times. And I'm going to ask Steve again, if you could, Steve, just tell us, what is this and what are those?
Yep, so Candice mentioned this for ventilation. Obviously you imagine us storing water within the tunnel itself. The air that's in the tunnel needs to be displaced when the water is stored, and vice versa, when it's released, the air needs to come back into the pipe. So this is one of our larger units for that. Seeing behind here, this tank is actually going to be filled with activated carbon. It's going to be for mitigating odors as we exhaust or bring back in makeup air within the pipe. So everything will run through the carbon scrubber on a typical operation for this to minimize any odors that you would experience with an active sewer. We also have larger blow-off valves here in case there's any large transients of airflow within the pipe. It's not something that we expect to happen, but it is a fail-safe that we have in place in case there are large displacements of air.
Well, this is all important, really, because one of the things is we're making sure that we don't keep discharging combined sewer overflows out into the lake as we're building a project like this. Mm-hmm. Really, the most important thing is that we don't back up anything to flood anybody's basements. In fact, we're trying to alleviate and position ourselves with most of our projects into a better footprint, so that as whether it's climate change or whatever's going on here, we're getting a lot more rain, and the intensity of these rain events is much, much more. All over the country. We're no exception here. So we're really trying to position ourselves from an infrastructure position, not only with water quality, but so that we can make sure that we try to not flood anybody's basements, or be in a position to alleviate some of that pressure on some of the underground systems that might cause any basement flooding. So all of those things are taken into consideration by our engineers. We have to make sure, as the bladder is inflating, as we're doing that, that, as you say, we have fail-safe systems, so that if something happens, we're able to release it right away, etc. So we don't cause, listen, that stuff's going to go somewhere, right? You think about water, it's going somewhere. So liquid, certainly. So we have to be careful of all of that. So here you can see the top of the construction site now. Of course, we're in the process of closing everything up, closing up our shafts, as they've been down working on this project here for the last year. And but we need to repave Beaconsfield. You can see Beaconsfield out in the distance there. If you were driving there, you'd drive right into 9 Mile Road, right? So again, we're between 8 and 9 Mile Road. And hopefully you can also see now where some of the stakes are. They're small, but if you can see these little stakes in the ground, that's where the curb is going to be. So you can see how all of this, our building and that will be well behind the curb and out of the way. So anyway, this is going to be a great project. Everybody in Macomb County can be very proud of the way that this project has gone and what it's going to do generationally. This is not some project going to be good for a year or so. This is going to change the water quality in a very positive way in Lake St. Clair, literally for generations. For those of you that are watching, that means your children and their children, right? Your grandchildren. That's what this means. So it's very important, and our county is totally committed, as all of you are, to making sure these good projects happen. Thanks for joining us.
Follow us on social media. For more information, explore our website. Reach out via email or connect through our toll-free hotline, 1-877-679-4337.